Hello and welcome to the Bestseller Experiment, where we explore the inner game of writing and inspire you to start, finish, and publish your book. I'm Mark DeVoe, and this week I'm treating you to the best of the Bestseller Experiment. I've delved through and handpicked my favourite shows of the 500 plus that we've done of best-selling authors who have collectively sold over 1 billion books. Who's it going to be this week?
To read Back to Reality, the best-selling novel of the Bestseller Experiment by the two Marks, go to bestsellerexperiment.com/Back to Reality.
And subscribe to this podcast to get loads of extra bonuses. Go to bestsellerexperiment.com/subscribe. Let's run the show.
Hello and welcome to the Bestseller Experiment, where we discover what makes a best-selling novel while trying to write, publish and market one in just a year. I'm Mark Stay.
And I'm Mark DeVoe, and welcome to this very special episode of the Bestseller Experiment.
Well, we've had him not in the studio. We've had our guest previously. We did speak to him at Galantsfest. In fact, we've been using your name to tout our podcast ever since we started. And people have been going, when's Ben Aaronovitch coming on the bloody show? And part of the problem was we did speak to Ben about what was then his forthcoming book, The Hanging Tree. It's since been published. It's since been a major, major bestseller. So a lot of what we spoke about is kind of irrelevant now. But we thought it'd be great to get him back in again because we know he's fantastic to talk to. So, Ben, let's introduce you to the listeners. You've been writing, I think your breakthrough was writing a Doctor Who series. You've written all sorts of TV since. And you're now the best-selling author of the Sunday Times best-selling Peter Grant series, which started with Rivers in London, which was, I guess, about 8-9 years ago now?
No, I wrote it in 2009 and it was published in 2011.
Okay. How time flies.
I know. I know. I think I just blanked out my life before that happened. For a good 20 years of that was pretty awful. So I just don't think about it.
Well, that's interesting because there is a bit of a gap in the CV, isn't it? I mean, you had this incredible start. You're writing what many Doctor Who fans consider to be one of the best series of all time, which was Remembrance of the Daleks, which I think was 4 episodes, Sylvester McCoy. Yeah. How did that come about?
Basically, in those days, script editors were quite important in television, the way television was structured. So the way to get into television, you must always send your script to a person because you send it to whom it may concern and it just ends up in a rubbish bin somewhere. And I picked out a script editor and I sent a sample script in. And it was a very nice lady called Caroline Alton. And she said, what do you like doing? And I said, I like crime and science fiction. She said, well, write a script for Rockless Babies and a script for Doctor Who, a sample script, and I will pass them on to the relevant script editors. And that's what happened. And had Rockless Babies gone for another series, I would have been writing for that as well, and history would have been different.
Were you a Doctor Who fan beforehand?
The word fan, right? It's a very difficult one because someone asked me whether I was. And back then, I thought a fan was someone who, watched the program on a regular basis. Okay. I had no conception of what the word fan meant. Even then, fan meant especially Doctor Who fan, meant a completely different thing. So I have to say, with my hand on my heart, in what people mean by a fan? No, I was a guy, I liked it and I watched it because it was science fiction, but I wasn't a fan. I always find that really funny, but I said yes because I didn't know what a fan was when they asked me that. And now I'd be like, oh, he was a fan writer. And I find that very hilarious.
If you were a big fan, Ben, though, it would have been probably way too much pressure, wouldn't it?
I don't know. You see, I was 20. I was young and I was stupid and naive. And when you're young, stupid and naive, you don't know what pressure is because you have no idea what you're actually doing. So you just charge in and go, yes, I shall write this. It shall be the best thing ever. And which is a good thing. I recommend that attitude for all starting writers because it's a bit like that bit in Blackadder when George says, yes, I'm now ready to go at the Hun, and General Melchett says, yes, if nothing else, total inability to face facts will get us through. And if for writing, that's good advice.
Did you have a sort of a game plan at that point? Did you have a career plan? Did you have an aim? Was there something else?
There's no career plan.
Sorry, I forgot I was talking to you then.
There's no career plan. You don't have a career plan. It's like all this advice when they say, look for an agent. They say, check the agent does what. No, you apply to every single agent in the book. Right? God, it's like, you don't, check the publisher. No! Send it to every single bloody publisher in the Artist and Writer's Handbook, and then look some other ones up on the internet and send it to them as well. This kind of like, there is no careful plan, because what you are relying on is somebody has to really like the book, and everyone's different. So there's no point carefully researching what they usually like. You just send it to everyone on the off chance that one of them will like it. And they don't like that because that means they get a huge reading pile. Well, color me not very impressed, right? I don't care. That's not my problem. Your reading pile is not my problem. Hire some interns, get work your way through them.
So Ben, take us back to that moment when, having thumbed through the entire writer's directory and you got your letter back. Tell us a story of when that moment happened.
I mean, the Doctor Who one, I did the other thing and I just ended up I got sucked into the process. So that was much more kind of like methodical.
So you wrote the novelisation of the series, is that right?
I wrote the novelisation of my story. In those days, W.H. Allen, as was, automatically offered you the chance to write. Automatically offered the writer the chance to write the novelisation, and if you didn't want to do it, our Uncle Terence was always available to do a knockoff. And of course, our generation, we just all went, yes, a chance to get paid to learn how to write prose. Yeah. So that was the first thing I'd ever written over. I'd have to say, apart from a script, it was the longest bit of prose over, I think, 2,000 words I'd ever written in my entire life.
Wow.
But again, it was like that kind of, I will write the best novelisation ever because I don't know any better whatsoever. So, I just my copy of Neuromancer in one hand and
was that your guide?
No, it was Count Zero. I think Count Zero, I mean, I'd read tons, but Count Zero was the first book where the style was important.
Right. Right.
Well, it was the transition from just like reading, cool spaceships to actually, style of language actually makes a difference.
And William Gibson, that was pioneering stuff there as well.
Well, everyone thinks William Gibson, like they go, that was like, the thing about William Gibson was the shades and the computers. No. The thing about William Gibson was the way he used language to describe the technology and the way he used technological metaphors and applied them to real life, you see, and people weren't doing that, and they weren't doing that in science fiction, and he started doing that in science fiction, and so it's not about. So cyberpunk really wasn't about cool women in dark shades on rainy streets, although that was cool. I'm perfectly down with that. It was about the way you use language to describe technology and society and things like that. For me, it was anyway. Your mileage may vary. So I used that as a kind of style guide for writing, and June, because I just read that. Right. I was basically an amalgam of all my various kind of like the last 8 books I'd read, basically, like most young people. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I just did it.
So did you go back and look at those and look at things like sentence structure and how chapters were laid out and how you talked about the use of language as well. Did you look at it at a sort of granular level?
No. I never look at things like that at granular level. I'm not a granular writer. The whole worship of the sentence is a very Guardian literary thing. It's kind of like, it's the sort of thing that gets discussed on the Open University. and actually, you see, it's to disguise the fact that what's mostly generally considered literature is terrible. So it's got lovely sentences, but it's just mostly crap. So it's crap with lovely sentences in the same way that, most science fiction is like really good ideas with bad writing. So it's really good writing with no real substance. And that's why, like, when a book comes along that does both, everyone goes, oh my God, it's so brilliant! So like a Wolf Hall, like, good substance and written in a literary style. So everyone goes, oh, it's the best book ever written. It's taken me ages to work my way through that.
What was the first transition, Ben, that you made when you kind of moved from writing for Doctor Who and then deciding to write a novel? Was it a decision you made or was it an opportunity?
No, I had, my career went funk. I woke up one morning and found I didn't have a career. Television is like, and the media generally is like, it's like a bus. You get on the bus, and once you're on the bus, you move around inside the bus. If you fall off the bus, you're left sitting on the tarmac while the bloody thing is receding into the distance. And it takes you a tremendous amount of effort to get back on the bus. And it literally took me 20 years to get back on the bus. And strangely, the route that I took, you see, I'd spent 15 years running like crazy trying to get on the back of the bus writing scripts. And then I was broke and working for Waterstones, which is why I was working for Waterstones, because I was broke. And I liked working for Waterstones, but you don't get rich working for Waterstones as a bookseller. And in fact, if you live in central London like I do, you can't even break even. So I was looking at bankruptcy, and I was shelving books. I'd been there about a year, and I was shelving books, and I ran the science fiction and the crime sections. Because I said, what do you like? Science fiction and crime. You see, this is history repeating itself. And I noticed I was putting people on the shelves that I'd never heard of before. So they'd actually been commissioned and had written books and been published in the year that I'd been working for Waterstones. And I thought, well, if it's that easy to get published, again, invincible ignorance, okay? And compared to television, where it is almost, it's almost impossible to get commissioned. Unless you are sleeping with a producer or something. And even then, it's quite hard. You have to, I thought compared to that, it is actually easier to get a book published because there's more outlets. There's more people to send your work to. There's more people who can make a go decision. There's only 3 people who can actually make a go decision in British television. Right? So if none of those 3 people like you, then, and they're surrounded by layers of people who just get in the way, and insulation. But in a book, there's lots and lots of publishers. There's actually lots and lots of publishers, and in final events, you can also publish yourself now, which is nice. So I thought, right, I'll write a book. And I looked up, and there was the crime, there was the science fiction. And I thought, what have I got? And I thought, I can't be bothered to write. Because I liked both of them equally, and I couldn't work out which one I wanted to write. So I thought, I'll write one that does both and save time, right? And I sat down and I kind of rummaged through my brain for the various ideas that had been floating around. Because I had like 20 years of accumulated good ideas that had not been used on anything or had been put into abortive script ideas or gone down into the kind of development spiral of death. And so I had quite a lot of ideas to pick from. And I picked up the one that was called, at the time, Magic Cops. Right. It was literally called Magic Cops until about 5 minutes before publication. And I said, right, this is good. And I sat down and I just mulled that in my head and thought, well, this and that and that. And then suddenly sort of Peter Grant walked into my head and I wrote what is essentially the first 2 pages. And I looked at it and I went, this is going to sell. I just knew it would sell. I didn't know it was going to become a bestseller, but I knew it was going to sell. I knew that sooner or later someone would buy it. I could just feel the talent. And one of the advantages of being an experienced writer is when you have got something hot. Right. Objectively, you can feel objectively. So you always think you've got something hot when it's your work, but you can actually feel it. The difference between that and like something I'd been writing like 6 months earlier. I could just felt it. I just went, "Oh, that works. This is tasty. This is going to work." And so it was just a question of then writing it and getting up really early in the morning and writing it and trying to sort of like keep body and soul together until I got paid, basically.
So Ben, when you had that moment with Peter Grant, what was it specifically that gave you that feeling? Can you remember?
It was the voice. It was the voice. I mean, the Peter Grant books are written much to the annoyance of quite a large number of pedants in the vernacular. And you'd be amazed, number of complaints. Oh, why does he say me and? Because he's written in the vernacular. I'm thinking of getting a T-shirt made up with the words, with the definition of the word vernacular written on it, and then on the back it would have what I write books in. And I don't know, there was just something about his voice. It was just that line, sometimes I look back on the wisdom of my father who used to say, who knows why the fucking, I don't know. There was just something about the tone. There was just something about the tone of his voice. And I just thought, this is good. This is a guy who people are going to warm to. I'm warming to him. And people will like him. And essentially, unless you're writing for The Guardian, or the Telegraph, doesn't have to be the Guardian, a character that people like is quite important.
Well, it's clearly worked for you because we're into we're 5-6 books now, comic books, and there's a novella coming as well. Can you see yourself writing Peter Grant for the foreseeable future?
Well, I have this is the only question that I always get asked whenever I do a session. And so I have a stock answer for it now. So you'll like the stock answer. It's a good stock answer because I will stop writing it if A, becomes boring for me. Yeah. Right? B, people stop reading it, in which case there isn't any point. Or C, I can afford a yacht. And I don't mean like a little 8-meter ketch. I mean, Aaronovitch, James Bond villain yacht with 2 helicopter landing pads and one of those control rooms that look like it's, you can launch a rocket from it. And at that point, apparently, I've been informed I'll probably have to keep writing because the actual yacht is actually the cheapest thing about having a yacht is buying the yacht. Running the yacht costs about the same price as the yacht every year. Yeah. So, as a rule of thumb. So, so the answer is I probably won't ever stop writing these until I'm dead. And see, and unlike people like Ian Rankin and Colin Dexter, I made sure my detective was younger than I am. So I'm not going to have that problem where he reaches mandatory retirement age and I have to write that tricky novel where he retires and then somehow comes back to the police force. Yeah. I'll be dead before that happens. So, forward planning. So you asked about planning now. Forward planning that.
Do you write every day?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what's your word count every day?
Bad.
Give us, what's an example of bad?
Well, really bad is no words whatsoever.
That's not writing every day then.
No, it is writing every day. Trust me. You can sit down at the bloody thing and come up with about 5 words. Oh, I suppose it's about 5 words. It counts as no words. It's about 5. I don't know. Anything under 200, I don't really count as getting any work done.
But are they good words? I mean, we'll talk to people who talk about 2,000 words a day or whatever, and you wonder how good they could be. But for you, if you get 500 words done, are they good words? Words you're happy with?
There's 3 basic types of writers that I've in my experience, and this is a spectrum. So there's kind of like people in between. But basically, there's people that write and revise, and generally, I've noticed that most people who've trained as journalists are like this, and I hate them. What they do is like 3,000 or 4,000 words, and then a day, and then they cut it down. So they just cut, and then they revise it and improve the text. And then there's people like me who are kind of like worrying about the and. That and. I'm not sure about that and. That makes it very slow, but we don't have to do so much revision because we're happy with the sentence. If we've written it down, then we're probably happy with the sentence as it is, and we don't revise. So there's less wastage. And then there's people who write fast and well, and we just hate them.
It's funny, we had Sarah Pimber on here, and she was saying that she doesn't write every day. She does a lot of thinking. Is thinking time important to you? Thinking about the story, or is that procrastination?
That's procrastination.
And how are you on procrastination?
I'm excellent. I like to think of myself as one of England's finest procrastinators. I feel that very few people can waste time quite as well as I can. I mean, I can waste time in ways that even, the cast of Shameless would have difficulty with.
What are your top tips for procrastination?
There's obviously Twitter, which is like a good source of procrastination. I can waste time with Twitter, and I ration myself. I only log onto Twitter every so often, but I still manage to waste. YouTube is another. The internet generally is just a very good source of procrastination. Then there's reading research books. Then there's going and looking at locations. Then there's working on another project that's just occurred to you that's got nothing to do with the actual project you're supposed to be doing at the time, which is my favorite. And then there's watching TV because, you need to input stuff into your brain.
But all of this, I mean, while this is going on, surely there's stories ticking over in the back of your head. Do you find there are moments when sort of a light bulb goes off and you think, that's a solution to a problem I was thinking about?
Yeah, but you cannot distinguish it from all the other stuff. So, I can't really hand on heart say that I'm doing that when I'm not. When I'm just going.
But looking at locations isn't. Looking at locations is an interesting one, because surely that must inspire you a bit.
Yes, I mean, you have to go to locations. Research is very important. I mean, I say it's procrastination, but research is very important because it makes writing easier. I find the more research I do, the more going to locations, having a look, the easier it is to write, because the words are sort of like it's there. I don't have to make shit up. So, the more stuff that's real, the easier it is to write. That's kind of like my motto. And the more, and so you get like something, and you can get that. You see, the thing is, it's very difficult. You have to say what is procrastination, what is research. So, I just try and sit down and write. And I mean, I'm very, 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 very slow writer. I don't know anyone as slow as me. I think 500 words a day is fast pace, right? And like my other writer friends just laugh at me and point. You know, when we have like writer get-togethers, they just laugh and point. It's embarrassing.
Well, you're clearly doing something right, though. You know.
Yeah, but you know, ask them. That was a year late. Ask Galants about that. They would much rather have had it a year earlier and slightly not as good, to be honest.
Do you not think, though, Ben, that the idea of going away and doing research on location is just an excuse for a kind of expenses paid holiday?
No, because most of my locations are in London.
Oh, okay. I'm just thinking about people that go off to like Morocco and all these extravagant places.
You need to actually smell the places. This is really important, because you can Google Earth only gets you so far. Reading about it only gets you so far. You actually have to go and kind of sniff the place. You have to, I can't explain it better than that. You have to get what it smells like, what it tastes like. And these are things you can't get from visual medium. So no matter how many kind of like documentaries you read about Morocco or something, you can't explain what that sand smells like, what a bazaar smells like, what is the souk smells like, or what do they really smell like? What does camel shit smell like? You know, I don't know. I've never been near a camel. So if I was writing, so the first thing I'd do is like, if I was writing something like involving camels, is I'd go down London Zoo and smell a camel. You know, because that's very important. Because then you get because the camel's got this. I mean, I say that because I actually did that. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever been ejected from London Zoo?
No. I asked if I could go. I didn't, stick my nose in its fur. You don't have to actually stand at all close to a camel to get a good whiff of them. You know? They're very fragrant beasts. You don't have to sniff them up close. A distance is fine. You just have to be downwind of them, really. And but I went actually to look at elephants. I was writing something. I can't remember why I needed to look at an elephant, but I needed to look at an elephant. I wanted to see how it moved and the thing is, it's just you suddenly, when you look at an elephant on a video, you think, oh, that's a big beast. When you stand next to one and realize that all it has to do is lean slightly to the left and you're dead, it's a completely different, you just think, to it, I am nothing. I'm like a mouse. It was like, oh, sorry. Is that your head? And then you suddenly get a better idea of what an elephant really is when you do that, when you get there, and what they smell like. And that's true of everything. That's true of tube trains and buses and people and locations and rivers and all the other things that make up a good book. And you got to meet a lot of people. And this is always a problem for writers because we're usually introverts. But you have to make yourself go out and meet a wide range of people. And the wider range of people you meet and you get to know, the easier it is to write a wider range of people. I know that's one of the issues that in writing these days is diversity in writing and without stereotypes. And the easiest way to avoid stereotypes is just get to know a large number of people. And then you won't write stereotypes because you know a large number of people, and you just won't write them because you won't be relying on or sort of received, I'm making air quotes, received wisdom. You will be relying on your own kind of experience, which is always much broader. So the broader you can make your experience, you don't have to have a lot of depth, but you need to have a lot of width.
When you've spoken to people sort of out in the field, and I imagine you speak to police officers and people like that because there's procedural in this as well. I mean, what are your favourite moments? Do you get nice surprises from these? Is there anything that's kind of informed the story, made you completely rethink a story, for example?
Well, I mean, the nicest surprise coming from Phil was someone who, when I wrote the book for the very first time, and I was doing a signing, and a lady came up to me and said, "Oh, my old man was a copper for 40 years, And he said he worked with every single one of the coppers in this. He'd worked with them, meaning like the type of copper. So everyone from Stephanopoulos to Peter. He said he'd worked with Sewell. He'd worked with one of those in his time at the Met, and that was very pleased because you worry when you make up a character like Stephanopoulos or Sewell that maybe I'm going over the top with this, but no, that was comforting. And yeah, people come up with things like they'll describe some kind of police procedure, or you'll be reading like the Blackstone's Manual for Police. There are all these books for teaching you how to be a policeman. And they go through they have the most wonderful acronyms, and I have enormous fun with the acronyms and stuff like the SAD Chalet and things like that. And you just read them and they just give you ideas they come in, they give you forms and they explain how forms will work. Things like the word action and the fact that it's used as a verb, to action, I action this, you action that. I had a lot of fun with that. All these things are just very, very useful, and it makes you appreciate. So you're watching something like Happy Valley, and you realize that Happy Valley is a very realistic, police show. And you watch something like Silent Witness and you go, ha, 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 that's crap, right? It's like on every level. But something like Happy Valley or Scott and Bailey, you recognize like real police working stuff. They make a lot of effort to make it kind of as realistic as possible, which is hard on TV because TV is not a very good medium for realistic TV. Because the thing about policing is it's all about systems, and systems are very boring on TV. No one wants to watch people doing. So that's why scientists are very rarely on TV unless they're cackling.
So Ben, with regards to obviously the crafting side is something we're completely stuck with right now. We're in the middle of this crazy experiment of trying to write a novel in 52 weeks. So we thought we'd kind of tap into some of your wisdom and give you a bit of a view as to where we are right now. We're in this position where Mark's racing to the end of the book. He wants to get the book finished, and I keep going off on these crazy diversions down all kind of blind alleys. What do you do when you get those kind of squirrel ideas where you're writing a book and you suddenly get another idea? Do you tend to follow it, or do you just kind of stick to the plot?
I don't write like that. I very rarely know what the plot is to start when I start the book. I usually have like a vague idea of what's going to happen. I mean, because I trained as a script writer, I have a kind of script writer's attitude. So I'm like a 4-act person. So I usually know where the first turning point, second turning point, third turning point. I have a rough idea of what they are. And I usually know what the big thing at the end is going to be, right? But what I don't know is how we're going to get to those points. And what usually happens is I start writing and the characters start going off in all sorts of directions. And I'm going, no, get back in that plot, you bastards. And things like characters who I didn't think were going to be characters suddenly turn up. Like half the bloody characters in that people love now go, oh my God, we have more of this one, are characters that were just there to do things like open the door. Or they were literally the equivalent of those kinds of characters in Shakespeare that walk in and go, the king is dead! It's like if you imagine Hamlet, where Rosencrantz and Guildenstern won't leave the stage, right? That's basically my life as a writer. Okay, they just get on the stage in the middle of Hamlet and they just go, we're lucky here. We like Denmark. We're going to hang about for a bit, and they have the thing. It is literally for me. It is as if Rosencrantz and Guildenstern go Hamlet in the middle of a soliloquy and go, you're just too gloomy. Let's get drunk or something like that, So because of that, and because my characters frequently refuse to do what I tell them anyway, I basically I'm just on it for the ride. I just basically just keep going.
I mean, you could argue some of those minor characters are kind of diversions, aren't they? Do they sort of get out of control? You just find you're having so much fun with them, you keep writing them, and then they become something else?
Well, I'm not sure fun is the right word to use. But I mean, I don't know, because for me, but that's part of the fun of the book. I mean, most people don't read my books for the plot. I don't think they read the books for the plot. I think they like the characters and they like the fun things and they like the humor. And if the plot makes sense at the end, that's like a bonus. I mean, I like the plot to make sense. I think the plots make sense. But, sometimes I get to the end and I think, okay, that kind of made sense to me. I wonder if it makes sense to anyone else. So plotting is very important. I mean, plotting is what separates, you see, a good, I don't know, look, there are two components to a book, right? There's the storytelling aspect and there's the actual prose that you use to tell the story. And the truth of the matter is, the storytelling aspect is the most important aspect for your purposes for best-selling, right? If you're telling a good story, right, the prose can be crap. And if you think about it, like, for commercial fiction, story is more important than prose, whereas that's the separation between that and literary fiction, where you have really brilliant prose and no story whatsoever. And that's the sort of separate, if you want a genre separation between the two genres, between literary fiction and all the other genres, then the literary fiction genre is defined by the fact that it has no story. You see? So I would worry about the story and then worry about the prose second. If you're really, cynically trying to get a bestseller, then the story is the most important thing in the book.
Mr. DeVoe is being very naughty. He's asking you a very leading question there because this week we're still on the outline. We're still at, it's 55,000 words long, this outline.
Your outline is 55,000 words.
And I just want to finish this bastard outline.
No, let me stop you there, right? This is your problem. You writing I wouldn't write a 500-word outline. For fuck's sake, 55,000 words. That's not an outline. That is just a form of self-flagellation. Oh, God.
That's the phrase I used.
God, you should be able to get the plot points of your novel onto one page of A4, right?
We tried.
Yeah. If you couldn't, writing 50,000 words isn't going to disguise the fact. One page of A4 as a beat sheet, you should be able to do it, okay? One page. And then you should start writing the novel. Because you guys are procrastinating, okay? You want to know what procrastination is? 55,000 word outline. Unless your novel is 250,000 words long, right? You are doing something wrong.
It's early days yet.
Okay. Now,
I think what's basically happened is we've ended up working on the outline and then started kind of playing with the characters, and we are really writing the book. I mean, we have got the plot down on one sheet of paper as a diagram.
Yeah, no.
Outline is the wrong word.
No, to quote Yoda, right? Write or do not write. There is no outline. Okay? You're doing this wrong.
That's why I want to get to the end so I can start the bloody properly.
Forget the bloody outline. The outline is an illusion.
I like to know where I'm going.
You don't know where you're going. You've spent 55,000 words on an outline. That is not someone who knows where they're going. That is someone who is waffling to cover up the fact that they don't know where they're going. Right? No, God's sake, 55. That's a novella. I've just got paid money for that. I would consider 55,000 a really good 6 months' work.
We did start in October.
Bloody hell. I've got friends who would have written a novel by now, and I'm not talking about a short novel. James Swallow would have written a novel, a best-selling thriller, and he would have had it out by now. And he writes outlines, but not 55,000 words outlines. God's sake, no. Look, you want my advice? You are wasting time. Sit down, start page 1, start writing the book. Worry about the end of the book when you get there, right? When you've got the words under your belt, that's when you worry about the end of the book. You are getting this all wrong. I mean, I'm not biased, but 55,000 words, that's just appalling. That's just depressing. 55,000. Oh God, you guys got too much time on your hands. You need to get a hobby or something, or a full-time job other than the full-time job you've got. Because Jesus Christ, look, J.R.R. Martin, right? His outlines. That's probably like 4 books of outlines for J.R.R. Martin. He's on the Winds of Winter by now. For God's sake.
We need to show Ben what we've actually done, though, Mark, because I think we're getting when I look at some of the actual 55,000 words, there are pages of
I understand the concept. Yes, where they're almost a full, but the thing is, it isn't.
Yeah.
Right? It's an outline. What you want to do is you want to actually start writing. It's a psychological thing, right? The outline is you not wanting to start the novel. You only get a 55.
No, I'm into. I mean, this is it. I'm not. This isn't. We are writing it. There's a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of texture yet.
No.
We haven't gone out
writing it because
we've not gone out to smell anything yet.
You've got a 55,000 word outline that is not writing a novel, that is procrastinating. Okay, you guys need to sit down, start writing chapter 1. Trust me on this. Okay, you will thank me in about a week's time. Just sit down, write bloody chapter 1, okay? Come back to me when you've written chapter 2, okay? Now, when you've written the first 20,000 words, you will know you will finish it.
Right.
Okay, that is the point where I think most people agree that once you've got about the first 10 to 20,000 words, then you're pretty certain you're actually going to finish the novel.
Right.
Before that, it's just like, I've got a novel in me. But at the moment, what you're doing, it doesn't matter how much good stuff is in the outline. It's not in the novel yet. Right? And you're going to have, what you're doing is you're trying to avoid doing the difficult bit. And the difficult bit is page 1. Opening line. That's the difficult bit. That's the bit that separates I've got a novel in me, right, from I am a writer. If you see what I mean, that is the crucial thing. That is the difference. The first chapter is what separates I've got a novel in me and I am a writer. You have to get that first chapter done because you're just pissing about now.
Well, look, this will bring us smoothly on to question of the week, which is from friend of the show, Lawrence Doherty, who says, can you write too many drafts? Is there a danger of losing the essence of the idea that got you writing in the first place? Where do you stand on that?
Entirely. No, I feel sorry for this question of the week because I'm entirely the wrong author to ask that. If you ask my editors, right, that question, they'll go, drafts? Ben does drafts? I don't do drafts. I just about finish it in time for my editor not to send a lynch mob round. And then he does corrections. There are no second drafts with me. I don't have time. Look, by the time I finished about 96,000 words, which is what one of my novels is, right. It's a nice short novel, and it still takes me like the best part of 2 years to write. I'm so tired of the bloody thing. I never want to see it again. I'm not going to go back and rewrite it, except when someone from outside has demanded it because the spelling's all messed up.
And that's why, do you think that's why you're a 500 word a day man?
I think it's because I'm incredibly lazy. I think the causal relationship is the other way around. I'm a 500 words per word man. That is why I hate bloody rewriting. I think you're making the causal relationship doesn't work the other way. I think the causal relationship is that way around. No, I mean, I'm not a draft person. Some people are draft people. Some people. The answer is yes. If you find yourself doing a fourth draft, you've done too many drafts.
Really? 4? Just 4 drafts?
I would say 4 I would go 2, but some people like to redraft. Yeah. And, you can redraft and you can redraft, but I would submit, for a first book, okay, there's a difference, right? There's a difference between that first thing you're selling and what you're doing when you are an established author. So for a first book, 4 or 5 drafts, whatever it takes to get it right. Okay. Don't go too mad, but don't, so I would say, if you've done more than 4 drafts, you've got to start asking yourself, are you just putting off submission?
Right.
Right. But because you nearly always want to go back and chop at least 2,000 words out of the first 3 chapters because it drags, and go, does this work? Make sure you've got no spelling mistakes because the first draft has to be, because someone has to read those first 3 chapters and think and not think to themselves, oh God, my life is over. I want to kill myself out of boredom, right? You got to remember that some poor sod has to read this when it arrives at an office. Yeah. And I don't need to tell you this, right? And they are not doing it full of glee. They're not thinking to themselves, yay, another manuscript, right? They are thinking, oh God, I've got this pile of manuscripts that I've got to read on the tube back to whatever godforsaken suburb they live in, right? And on a Kindle probably nowadays. Yeah. So it's a PDF on a Kindle. So it's not even very well formatted. And you had better fucking entertain them in the first 2 chapters, is all I'm going to say, because otherwise they're just going to go, Argh. And you can generally tell. So you've got to make sure those first 2 chapters at least are nice and crisp, if nothing else. Yeah. But I wouldn't, if I found myself, if someone told me, even my fast writing friends, that they were on redraft number 5, I would be a bit dubious. Now, once you're a professional writer, that's a slightly different thing. One thing, you're more experienced. So you draft as many times as you feel is necessary, which in my case is none, right? Because I'm going to hand it over to an editor who's going to come up with notes. So I don't see why I should do their job. What the hell are they getting paid for? You know, I mean, Gillian, she's a lovely woman. She gets paid money to edit my work. I don't see why I have to edit it. I think I think it's presumptuous for me to prejudge what Gillian might want changed.
That does sound like prevarication to me.
I think it's presumptuous. It's much easier to, and also sometimes you're very close to the work. That's one of the reasons why I actually pay a friend to, on a chapter by chapter basis, edit my work.
Right, okay.
So, because it's just very useful, because my grammar is crap, my spelling is terrible. So it's useful to have someone who knows how to spell and do grammar, where the commas go. I'm all right. I'm getting better, but I always have a problem with commas.
Yeah.
So I have someone to help me with the commas. It's not so much that they put them in the right place. It's that knowing that they're going to do it stops me from doing that thing where you write a sentence and then go, does the comma go there? Or does the comma go there?
Yeah.
So I instead of doing that, I just go, oh, well, Andrew will fix it. And actually, Andy doesn't need to fix it as often as he needed to, like 6 books ago. But it's like working with a safety net. It's just very useful. And so therefore, my books to a certain extent are edited as they go along.
Right. Okay.
So by me as well. I mean, I go back and I change things. I lose about 20% of the prose that I write. I keep track of it and I lose. So I have a 96,000 word, about 20,000 words, 25,000 words. Not in big chunks though. Some people, you see, that's the difference. A writing revised person will write 120,000 words and then cut out 40,000 words to make a 90 whatever length novel, right? I will cut out sentences. I will do it at the individual sentence level. And then when I add it all up, it comes to about 20,000 words.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of difference. And you have to know, the question is, you have to really know, who am I? What is my style? And then you adapt your writing technique to the style that you have. You have to find your own, in the same way that you have to find your own voice, you have to find your own writing rhythm. Some people like to get up in the morning. Some people write at late at night. Some people write in cafes. Some people are obsessive. Some people like only one computer facing east on, whatever. No, there is no right way of doing it. So whatever works, basically, whatever gets the thing done. But, and this is the important with you and your bloody 55,000 word bloody outline, right? Done is the word, okay? 50,000 word outline is not done, right? Chapter 1. Oh, now we're doing chapter 2. That's done, okay? Right? Outline is just pissing about. Okay, so 50,000 words. That's Scrivener's way of telling you should be getting on with the bloody novel. I don't know, and the characters, because you don't even know what the characters are going to be like until you've done the serious writing.
Well, that's what we're finding out.
That's what you can do. The outline won't tell you. Right? Because it's an outline. The outline is the easy bit. By definition, all that lovely prose you're writing in your outline, that's the low-hanging fruit. That's not what's going to slow you up. That's not what's going to keep you awake. That's not going to have you banging your head gently on the table in front of your computer, right? What's going to have you gently is really stupid things. Like you're going to go, now how do I get them from this location, right, to that location? What's the frickin' transition? I mean, because I'm so bored. I can't just go, ... And can I give you a word of advice on that one? It's from a Somerset Maugham story, right? Yeah. And this, I recite this to you. It's like a little mantra, Somerset Maugham story, and I can't remember what it is. In one of the stories, it goes, They went back to the hotel, and the next morning, and then I can't remember what they did the next morning. But my point being is that you don't have to go back to the hotel, detail what they eat, have them wake up and go out. You can do that in one sentence, and that's something you can't do in film. Yeah. Right? You can't do it in radio, and you can't do it in comics, but you can do it in prose. And you can have a seamless thing like that. You can annihilate time with with a conjunction. You can annihilate time. That's very, 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 very useful thing to be able to do. And a lot of the time, you will spend a lot of your time trying to get from one scene to the other. And actually, all you have to go is, and then they went to that place. Right? And that, believe it or not, is what takes all the time. You're writing. It's things like that, whether the characters are paranoid, schizophrenic, with mother issues, right? That's not what takes time when you're writing. Transitions is what takes time. Finding new ways of describing people takes time. Thinking, how do you convey that sensation when you look up at a house and it looks like it's going to fall on your face without saying that and then going, he looked up at the house and he had a terrible sensation it was going to fall on his face. It's working your sort of way through that. That is what is going to take you the time. And you guys are putting it off because you know that, right? So get on with bloody chapter 1, okay? Because I would be amazed if half the stuff in that outline makes it into the novel.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Right,
Yeah,
so stop writing the bloody novel outline, get on with this. Oh, you're not going to make your deadline. You're just not.
Well, we have written the first 3 chapters.
Back in episode 3 or 4, I was saying we need a Madam Whiplash. I think we've actually found it.
Yes, I will, because you just need, I'm going to follow you now, and every so often I'm going to tweet you.
This is going to be great. We're going to have like official Mr. Whiplash checking in with us.
Have you started chapter 1 yet? Have you started I'm going to do that. I can do a bot, It'll just do that automatically at intervals until you bloody start.
You can be our accountability author. There you go.
I'd love that.
And then when you've done that, I'm going to go, and I'm just going to change that to chapter 2, reset the bot. Seriously, because this is the only way you're going to get a book out, because you set yourself, and I understand the impulse, even though I deplore the motive, right? Okay, but you have to get the book written, because this is a hard thing, and you are going to have to revise it. If you want a bestseller, you guys are going to have to revise. I can tell you guys are revisers, right? Oh, yeah. So you're going to need to get that done. But you see, you should be able to write this novel between the two of you in less than 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, how long is it going to be? You don't want it to be too long, so it's going to be what?
Between 80 and 90.
Yeah. So you should be able to write this in 3 months.
The problem was, though, Ben, that was the idea. When we started off this experiment, we gave ourselves 52 weeks, and we thought, well, we'll do this funny little podcast to go alongside it, and then we'll spend most of our time writing the book. The problem is, podcast's gone bananas.
Oh, really? Oh, procrastination.
Well, yeah, that's true. Maybe that's what it is, Mark. Maybe the whole podcast is just a big procrastination.
You've had time to write 55,000 words, right? If you hadn't bothered with the outline, you'd be almost finished by now.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think what we've got is a very good skeleton of a story. And it needs texture adding on it.
What you haven't got is a novel.
No. I'm not saying we have yet. No, we haven't. No. We will.
So there is, like I said, either write the novel or don't write the novel. There is no fucking outline. This is outlines are for producers and television folk.
That's probably because I come from a script world. That's where my background.
To procrastinate further, guys, I suddenly realised we've got to announce our Bryan Cranston competition winner.
Oh,
and we were wondering, Ben, as you're with us in the studio, I've got this incredible little device here. We've got all the people who've entered, and I press a magic button, and it kind of randomly picks somebody out of that list. Okay. And I'm going to press a button and send you the name. Would you be willing to read it out for us, the winner? So, Mark, remind people what they're going to get.
You're going to get a signed copy of A Life in Parts, Bryan Cranston's autobiography, which he very kindly signed for us when we met him last year, and also a signed pair of tighty whitey underpants. He signed them right on the crotch. One of a kind. This is a real prize to savour, people. Something to cherish and frame and show your friends when they come round. So this is a real unique prize. So yeah, proper one-off.
Excellent stuff. So I'm going to press the button now. And Ben, if you look on your screen there, on the little window, I'd like you to announce who the winner is.
And the winner is Josh Atkinson.
No way!
Hey, congratulations, Josh. So you'll be getting a pair of underpants in the post very soon. Obviously, warn the postman just in case. But congratulations. Thank you to everyone who entered the competition. We literally had thousands of entries. And I was just wondering, Mark, have we got something of Ben's to give away?
Yes, we have. I'm sorry. Josh is one of our most tweeted tweeters. He tweets us pretty much every day with his word count. So,
Josh, if I'm just going to delegate the nagging them to write chapter 1 to you. So, if you could just start every day's tweet with "Have you written chapter 1 yet?" Ben wants to know if you've written chapter 1 yet. I'll be really grateful. That will save me, and that will stop it from being my procrastination, and I will get on with my book, and everyone will be happy.
I think that's time to wrap it up, isn't it, Mr. D?
Absolutely. And we just wanted to say thank you to everyone for checking in. We've been well and truly in the ring with the literary version of Mike Tyson today. So Mark and I have to go off and reevaluate what on earth we're doing. But if you would like to get along to our website, we have all this incredible advice from all of the authors that have been on the show with us. And it will be updated with all this incredible advice we've had today from Ben. And it's called the Vault of Gold. So if you get along to the website, you can join the mailing list and download a copy of that. And actually, Mark, I think that book, The Vault of Gold, is that longer than our actual outline?
It's 50,000 words long.
Yeah, there you go.
I rest my case.
So there we go. We've written 2 half books. And so pop along to the website, download it.
And also, I just want to add as well, at the time of recording, it's 1st of February when we record this, our guest from a few weeks ago, Sarah Pinborough, is number 2 in the Sunday Times bestseller list. She came on this show. She was really nervous, didn't know whether or not it was going to chart or not, and we are over the moon for us. Huge congratulations to Sarah. And we do have a contest running as well, a giveaway running to win a signed copy of her book, Behind Her Eyes.
For a fact that Sarah Pinborough is already 30,000 words into the next novel.
Okay, thanks everyone for listening. You can get in touch with us at bestsellerexperiment.com. We're on Facebook, Bestseller Experiment, Twitter at bestsellerxp. Where can we find you, Mr. Aaronovitch?
You can find me in bookshops. No, I'm on Twitter under at Ben Aaronovitch with an underscore. And I have a blog and a Facebook page that I admit is actually run by somebody else because I'm crap at Facebook. But I do look at it. I just don't know what all the buttons do.
Excellent. Ben, I just want to ask you before we go, I have one of these very elongated surnames. The surname is DESVAUX and people have mispronounced it all my life. I looked at your surname and that double A, I was wondering, was that anything to do with Yellow Pages or is that for real?
No, it was a very common name in Lithuania. It was a Lithuanian Jewish name, and my parents, my dad's parents, emigrated from there at about 1900. They were pogromed in 1900. And there were quite a lot of people called Aaronovitch because it just means son of Aaron, which is a common name assigned to Jews when they were given surnames. And everybody else changed their name except for my parents, basically. So, for some reason. So, we are the only Aaronovitches in London, even though we actually had quite a lot of relatives who came over at the same time who had the same name. They all changed their names to Jones and Brown and stuff like that. So, the double A is great. It's always got me at the front of the list. I
was going to say, brilliant positioning.
And I pronounce it Aaronovitch when I want to annoy people. They say, what's your name? I did the Russian Aaronovitch. I am Aaronovitch. Don't forget.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you for making us laugh until our sides split.
Enjoyed the snow.
We will get this novel done. We are absolutely going to kick some butt with this novel.
Yeah. I believe that.
And you'll be one of the first. We'll send you like a.
I don't want to see it while you're writing it. No, I just want to know you've done it. I'm not interested in reading your bloody novel in bits. I do that enough of my own stuff. I'll read it when it's finished. I just want to know you've done chapter 2.
Excellent. Okay. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Ben.
We really appreciate it. Until next week, it's goodbye from Mark 1.
And it's goodbye from Mark 2.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
What are your writing dreams? Finishing that book? Quitting the day job? Becoming a best-selling author? Since 2016, we've interviewed and studied the advice of over 500 best-selling authors who've collectively sold over 1 billion books. And in the Bestseller Academy, we've incorporated powerful and proven strategies for success, inspiring fiction and non-fiction authors just like you to reach new heights and write their best book ever. Ready to take your writing to the next level with accountability, craft, coaching, and the most inspiring and exclusive community of like-minded writers? Well, your bestseller dreams are just a click away. Join us today at bestsellerexperiment.com/academy. That's bestsellerexperiment.com/academy.